Object-oriented programming languages, such as Visual Basic for applications, let you create and manipulate objects using their properties, methods, and events. Access is a huge program with hundreds of objects, but the program team defined every element of Access, from the application itself to individual table rows, as objects you can manipulate using VBA commands. Taken as a whole, these definitions comprise the Access object model. In this movie, I'll highlight the most commonly used objects in Access VBA. The first of those objects is the application object, and there are a number of properties that you will use. And actually, some of the properties are objects themselves that I'll get into in a little bit more detail later in this movie. So for example, you have the current DB, which refers to the current database, then current project, and a project is a VBA code collection that I'll touch on later. Do command is a series of menu items. Basically, the do command object in VBA includes all of the methods that you can use if you create macros, like I showed you in Chapter 1. Then you have the collections for forms and reports, and ways to work with the printer, the screen, and also sys command, which allows you to do things such as sound beeps and to show progress bars. Methods, or actions that you can take using the application object, are calculating averages, counts, maximums, and so on within a table. Also, you can do a variety of lookup tasks, such as finding the first or last value that meets a criteria, or you can use dlookup to find values in one table field based on values in another field. And finally, if you want, you can quit Access. The me object refers to either forms or reports, and there are a variety of properties that you can use, such as identifying the active control, and also indicating whether you want to allow users to be able to manipulate the form or report data. You can also control filters, the caption, the picture that appears in the background, and also identify the record source that provides values for that form or report. And as with controlling the caption and the picture, you can decide which, if any, scroll bars to display and whether to make the form or report visible or invisible. The methods that you can use with the me object, which again refers to either a form or a report, are to refresh, which updates the data supplied to the form or report, repaint, which redraws the form or report on the screen, requery, which updates the data for the form or report, and finally undo, which allows you to give the user the option to essentially undo the last action. It's equivalent to clicking the undo button on the Quick Access toolbar or pressing Ctrl-Z. Next, there is the current DB object. That refers, as I said earlier, to the current database. And you have properties, and this list is not exhaustive. These are just the ones that are the most commonly used. You have the name, and then the collection of all queries, called query defs, and the collection of all tables, called table defs. And methods, or actions you can take on the current DB object, are to create a query, create a table, or to open an existing query or table as a record set. And speaking of the record set object, you will use this object a lot when you analyze your table data. The record set's most commonly used properties are beginning of file and end of file, so you can identify where the data starts and where it ends. The fields, which are a collection of the fields or columns in your tables. No match, which identifies whether a find function was able to locate data that meets criteria. And then finally record count, which tells you the number of rows in a table. And the methods include add new, which is adding a new record, closing a record set, and then either deleting a row or editing a row. And then you also have methods to find values within a record set, to move within the record set, to requery, meaning to update the data, and then also to update the record set based on input from the user. You can find more information about the Access object model through the Visual Basic Editor's Help Facility or the Object Browser. The Help Facility works just like the help system in the regular Access program. You can find the Object Browser in the Visual Basic Editor, which I cover in detail in the next movie.